In your head. Online.com. That's the important stuff. Now, the most important thing is you're listening to Jake the Snake Roberts. Don't you ever forget that, or you just never know what might show up.
He was never a giant or muscle-bound. Lanny's poems ensured no one would leave with a frown. The genius strutted to the ring in a cape and gown, while most threatened to pummel and pound. He always spoke with glory and renown. Look for Lanny Poffo when he comes to your town. www.inyourheadonline.com is where this interview can be found. Enough for me has been said. We welcome Lanny Poffo to In Your Head.
I am the genius full of glory and renown. You got that right, yes.
I got one part.
There's only a few wrestlers that had real gimmicks. Andre was really a giant. I was really a genius. Jake was really a snake.
And you really had frisbees.
Oh, I really do, yes. Actually, I don't anymore. I threw them away.
Oh,
I have boomerangs that have come back.
Ah.
Cheaper that way.
Yeah, they have to pay if they want them.
Yeah.
Don't give the gimmicks away. All right, so I heard you're starting to work on the indies again.
Yes, I started working on the indies. I'm having a middle-aged crazy attack. I'm 50 years old. I look every day of it. But I'm going to go out there and work the indies anyway. And there's a couple of reasons why. Main reason is I'm interested in promoting my book and bringing my book to the wrestling fans. It's a very good idea. So that's the books beget the wrestling. But by day I'm a mild-mannered reporter. I'm a certified credit counselor, and I might add one of the very, very best. So I really don't need to wrestle anymore. It's just that if I'm going to get this book off the ground, I have to get it into the hands of the wrestling fans. And since the demographics prove the wrestling fans is just about everybody, and they all have children, then I'm going to have to go out there and disgrace myself once again.
Is it something you miss doing, too? You miss being in the ring?
I didn't think I did, but once you get in there, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
It's, I tried to deny it, but I can't lie to you guys, right?
Right.
Oh, no.
In your head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've known each other so long.
We go back a long ways, me and Poffo.
Yes, we go back, and you don't write, you don't send flowers.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
I feel so used.
We lost your number, man.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, you got it back.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay,
I'm
ask
going to
me
send you
anything.
cards.
You going to send me a card?
Yeah.
Where are you guys
cards for
located?
us. I'm in
What's that?
I'm in Massachusetts. I'm on Cape Cod.
Uh-huh.
I'm
And,
in West Virginia.
I'm in Florida here.
Oh, really? And
And
you're
I'm
what-
in Birmingham, England.
You're in, where in England?
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Yes, that's where Davy Boy was from, isn't he?
Around there, yeah, I think so.
did you ever
He was
wrestle at
from
the
Wigan
Cape
or
Cod
someplace.
Coliseum?
What's that?
Did you ever wrestle at the Cape Cod Coliseum when it was still around?
No, I never did. I wrestled in Boston Garden,
Right.
and before they tore it down, I wrote a poem for them that appeared in the Boston Globe, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
But I won't. I'm not going to recite poetry to you guys.
oh man, I was hoping you would near the end of the show. You give us a poem at least one.
Oh, I'll give you a few. Yeah.
All right.
The
So
man
what
from
was
Nantucket.
I live near Nantucket too.
Yeah, I knew that. And the other guy's from West by God, Virginia.
Yeah, that's right.
Used to be my stomping grounds.
Really?
Yeah.
Got any good
Anyway,
stories about West Virginia?
What's that?
Got any good stories about West Virginia?
Oh, just that they used to go to family reunions looking for babes.
Well, you must know 1-inch biceps. That fits him to a T.
What? Say what now?
You just explained my co-host.
Could be my
Oh,
dad.
okay.
So what was it like growing up with a father who was in wrestling?
Well, I wouldn't know it any other way. People ask me that. Is that I wouldn't know how to grow up without a father in wrestling.
Right.
Because, I was the youngest in the family. I was born December 28th, 1954. My brother was born November 15th, 1952. Now, does anybody know my brother? I guess he didn't get any publicity.
I think he was a Macho Man.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
He never quite.
Yeah.
He was never quite the genius, but I always liked Macho Man.
Oh, I always considered him to be a bit of a genius. He got signed in the St. Louis Cardinals baseball, and he was only making $500 a month. He supplemented his income playing cards with the ball players.
Oh, really?
And he was able to take those bonus babies for a ride. And he wound up with all their money.
Hey, you could go into. That's a big thing now on TV is the poker tours.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he has no more reason to do it.
Yeah, right. It's different when you need the money.
Yes, he needed the meals
Right.
at the time. But he was a hustler. Yeah, he's got a brain like a razor blade. And he did a little better when he dealt. I don't know why that was.
The little cards up the sleeves going on.
I don't know what it was. But he claimed he never cheated, but he always did better when he dealt.
Oh, okay.
No, it's only cheating if you get caught.
Right.
Yes, right.
Doesn't matter if you win or lose as long as you cheat.
Yeah, that's what Sputnik LaRoe told me.
Oh, is that where Jesse got it from? I remember Jesse used to say it all the time.
Oh, there's very few original thoughts in wrestling.
Right.
Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. And I'm sure Sputnik didn't invent it either.
Right. Did your father want you guys to get into the business, or did he try to keep you guys out?
Well, we all three had something in common. We all failed in baseball. And then that's why we got into wrestling. And, yeah, he wanted us to get in it. He's not one of those guys that thinks that wrestling was a lousy thing.
Right.
I spent 21 years in it. It was excellent for me. And people always ask me to what kind of a guy was this guy or that guy. You know, if you've been doing something 21 years and you resented it, you better blame that face in the mirror.
Right.
Because that's the reason you stayed in it.
Well, we were hoping you'd come on and bury everybody.
You want me to bury people?
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll bury a few people.
All right.
Name some names.
Well, I know there's one name here we've got a lot of questions about in our message board, and that would be Ole Anderson.
Well, I was on a radio show, I don't know, it was a year and a half ago, wrestling, and they said, do you want to talk to Ole Anderson? I said, sure, I got no problem with it.
Right.
And he didn't want to talk to me, and after I hung up, he started saying all these things about me, and I didn't even find out what it was until afterwards. And I found absolutely no reason to continue with whatever petty jealousies we had in the past or whatever. But if you want to get right down to it, who retired with more money? Me. Okay. Who has more illegitimate children running around the world? Him. I've got none. He's got several. So I wound up with more money. I wound up with less illegitimate children, and he's criticizing me. Here's what happened, and this is what he used to knock Ric Flair all the time, right?
Right.
You know, he used to say, this guy's lousy and this guy's lousy. This was in 1977. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. They ran 3 towns a night. Ric Flair used to draw sellouts with everybody he ever worked with. And then, naturally, when they have the main events all split up, they had the Andersons, Gene and Ole, on one of the towns, and they would always draw lousy. So Ole always be knocking Ric Flair in the dressing room, but never to his face, always kiss his ass to his face. So what I did is I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stand the mendacity. I couldn't stand the arrogance. And he would pontificate about his idea of wrestling. Now, my idea of wrestling is this. Did you ever hear the expression, there's more than one way to skin a cat?
Oh, of course.
Okay, it doesn't matter how you skin the cat as long as the cat gets skinned.
Right.
In other words, as long as tickets are sold, does it matter what they're going to see? I'm sure that if you like Elvis Presley, Neil Diamond, the Beatles, or Luciano Pavarotti, you probably prefer one to the other. But you all admit that each one of the 4 had their audience and they succeeded.
Right.
Even if you consider, well, that's not music, or that is music, or that's not my cup of tea, at least they had an audience and they sold tickets.
Right.
And it angered me that he would. I thought Ric Flair, and especially the way he treated me. I was 21 years old. I think he was about 27. So I'm 50, so I guess that makes, just do the math.
Right.
He was so nice to me, and then he got in the ring, and he was so excellent, and he sold so many tickets. They used to say, well, he's not good because he's a heel, and half the crowd is applauding him. Well, what it was whether he was a heel or a babyface, everybody loved him and respected him.
Right.
Okay, for what he was doing, because no matter what you paid for the ticket, he always gave you more showbiz than you paid for. So finally, we're in the dressing room in Greenville, South Carolina, and Ole says that that Ric Flair is just an entertainer. He is not a wrestler. I said, well, it's hard to entertain a bunch of empty seats, and that's what you always seem to draw. And he got so mad at me that then we're in Spartanburg, South Carolina, I believe. I'm not, all those towns seem to look alike to me in my mind. We had a battle royal. And Ole says, for that remark, you're going to pay. And I didn't know what he meant, but I had an idea. And we get in the battle royal, and Gene Anderson goes behind me, puts me up in the air, and throws me on my hands and knees. Well, as soon as I realized what he's doing, I did a short sit-out and pinned him. And I didn't let him up. And now Tim Woods, who was the University of Michigan or something, it was All-American, is laughing his ass off. My brother's laughing at Gene on his back and can't get up. Ole's panicking. And so finally I let him up, and I go over to Ole, and I said, you're next. And he wouldn't have anything to do with me. So not only did I wind up with more money, he's a pussy, and he wouldn't accept my challenge. And now he's 110 years old, so he's got that excuse going for him. And then he says, if Lanny wrote a book, I'm sure Lanny can't write, so I'm sure somebody wrote it for him. Well, I saw his book, and since Scott Teal wrote his for him,
right.
I wrote every letter of mine. So that's about it. It's just that at one time he controlled wrestling. Now he wrote a book that the synopsis is, I was the greatest, everybody else sucked. And he hates Vince McMahon because he succeeded where Ole failed. Ole tried to take over the universe and failed. Vince tried to take over the universe and succeeded.
Right. Yeah, you can't really argue that Vince McMahon wasn't successful in wrestling.
Yeah, I'd rather have your envy than your pity.
Right.
Anyway, and a lot of people are, a lot of the people my age are knocking the young talent. I hate doing that. Because when I was young, all the old-timers knocked us. The thing is, wrestling is evolving, changing all the time. And if you're going to get a step ahead of it, I mean, there's more entertainment out there than ever before. And time and money are limited. So between, PlayStation 2 or quarters that you stick into machines or other sports or live theater, wrestling has a lot of competition, and they got to stay ahead of it. And about the pornography, well, never underestimate the taste of the American public. It's like if you appeal to the masses, you'll live with the classes. If you appeal to the classes, you'll live with the masses. In other words, they know their demographic, and they're catering to it.
Right.
And in the words of the second greatest promoter I've ever seen, Bill Watts, if you don't like it, start your own territory.
You worked for Bill Watts?
Yeah, I worked for him for about a year.
Oh.
He was a phenomenal businessman. And he gave I loved his speeches that he gave at the taping sessions. He was just he felt like there was a man in the room.
Right. He was a good leader.
And boy, he as a matter of fact, the last day I worked for him was right 2 weeks after my daughter was born, and she's now 21 years old. Anyway, any questions? I didn't mean to take the ball rolling.
Oh no, that's great.
But when you talk about Ole Anderson, it's he's a pathetic sleep. You see what I mean?
Right.
Please tell him I said that.
What was like some of the first gimmicks you started to use when you got into wrestling?
Well, I always tried to figure out a way to take a shortcut in wrestling. And the wrestler that I admired the most is the wrestler that I resembled the least, Johnny Valentine. Because there's a guy, if there was any doubt about the authenticity, legitimacy, or whether wrestling was real, please see Johnny Valentine against anybody, but preferably somebody that he enjoyed working with, a la Wahoo McDaniel.
Right.
Somebody tough enough to do it with him. Because he had a style that, well, you almost couldn't wrestle him unless you were nuts. You know? But the way he stood, the way he looked, the way he slugged, he was whacking guys. It would fill the arena with the horror of bone against bone. And did you ever have a chance, I don't know how old you guys are, did you ever see Johnny Valentine?
I've never actually seen him, no. I've seen pictures of him, but I've never seen any of his matches.
No.
29.
Well, I'm just sorry that there aren't any tapes of him because 1977 is when his, I believe, his plane crashed.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Was it 77 or
I'm
76?
not sure, but it's probably around there, yeah.
And, you know, actually, he became better when he got older. I sure didn't, but I think he was at his peak right at the plane crash. And I tried to imitate him, and I just didn't have it. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's hard to, I just didn't have the tools for that.
You can't be something
So
you're not.
I imitated, I saw a tape of Ricky Starr, and the rest is history. He was a ballet dancing, effeminate,
seen him.
gymnastic. What's that?
I've seen him on Classic Wrestling they used to show on ESPN Classics.
Yeah, I sure would like to get a tape of that because, of course, he was better than me in many, many areas. He was a better gymnast, a better ballet dancer, a better boxer and wrestler. I was just bigger. I'm a big guy. I'm not a big guy compared to the big guys, but I was big compared to Ricky Starr. He was a little guy, totally coordinated, and he made a lot of money in England. The fellow here that's from Manchester, England. Are you too young to know Ricky Starr?
Well, it's Birmingham, but that's all right.
Yeah, he's 19. He's the young one of the group.
Although I think I know who you're talking about. Wore a rainbow singlet at times.
Right. I'll tell you. And there was. Do you remember Judo Al Hayes?
I never heard that name.
He's now Lord Alfred Hayes, and he's I understand convalescing in a hospital. And I've got to write him a letter because I love Lord Alfred Hayes. What a nice man. But he gave me a lot of advice in wrestling, and especially in interviews.
Right.
And that was when I was 20 years old. And you know, I never forget people that really helped me.
I do want to ask you about that, about promos, though. That's one thing about today is they say most of the promos are written for the guys. Do you think that kind of takes away from creating your own character? Like, if you had all your poems written, do you think you really could have, you wouldn't have got better at writing them? And
well, the thing is, when I reached the pinnacle of wrestling, when I wrestled Hulk Hogan,
right,
on NBC,
yep,
that was on Saturday Night's Main Event. That was taped on Halloween of '89, and it was played Thanksgiving weekend of '89. And when I got there, some of the writers from NBC had written me poems.
Oh, really?
And I went to Vince and I said, they wrote me some poems that's certainly not as good as mine. And he says, absolutely, you write your own and you do your own.
Right.
So he straightened that right out. And the poem that I wrote for that was, the genius was victorious against the mighty Hulkster, and the World Wrestling Federation fell. For a billion Hulkamaniacs who live and die for Hogan saw the genius was triumphant at the bell. They saw their hulking hero as he wallowed in self-pity, like the victim of a somewhat heinous crime. And now he has a partner even stupider than he is, so I'm sure he'll be the loser one more time. Mr. Perfect, you're the man who's never wrong. Can you prophesize what we're about to do? By the power of the genius and the world's smartest man, rely on my incredible IQ.
Was that
they have some... What's that?
You keep going.
I'm sorry?
I was asked if that was your most memorable match in your career. Was
yeah.
Hulk Hogan, Saturday Night's Main
That's
Event.
the match I prefer never to forget. In fact, that's the only tape of myself I keep around. And that's, that's my appearance. The two most memorable appearances were January 15th, 1990, where Mr. Perfect and I appeared on Regis Philbin, and the 1989 Saturday Night Main Event with Hulk Hogan. Yes, those are my two coup de grace moments of my life.
Did you prefer being a manager, or did you enjoy wrestling more?
I preferred being a wrestler.
You like doing the promos, of course.
Oh, yes, I like
Maybe
doing
like
the
being
promos.
a wrestling manager.
What's that?
Maybe being like kind of a Piper character where he would kind of manage some guys and also wrestle.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy night off, but I like being a wrestler. It depends who I get to work with. You know, if you wrestle somebody that you enjoy wrestling, then it's easy. If you don't, it's not.
Who were some of the best guys to work with in the WWE, WWF?
Well, when I was a babyface leaping Lanny, I have to say that, George Scott was the booker when I just came in, and he really liked me, and he was trying to do a lot for me. But as soon as he lost his position, then I started getting beat for about 4 years. Okay? But I hung in there, just counted the money, and didn't worry about it. And then I got the gimmick as the genius, and then that lasted about a year and a half, and then it fizzed, and then I was fired. You know, because they bring new guys in, and it's show business, not show friends. So as a babyface, I'd have to say Terry Funk, Dory Funk Jr., Harley Race. When they came in, I did jobs for them, and it was always excellent. Kamala, believe it or not, him and I just clicked. You know, I just loved his gimmick. And believe it or not, the Iron Sheik, all his matches were alike, but they were always great because he had a gimmick that was unapproachable. I mean, when he said he was from Tehran, Iran, I mean, nobody doubted it for a minute.
Oh,
and it was legit.
All his poems. I mean, all his promos.
Oh yeah, he was legit and fun to watch. You know, the way he'd play with his mustache and tap his belly.
Right.
And play with his abs, you know, with his, like, 12 months pregnant and never going to deliver.
You mentioned earlier about there's more than one way to skin the cat, and the names you mentioned there, like a Terry Funk or a Dory Funk Jr. was just awesome, you know, in-ring guy, and then you had a Kamala who was just, you know, pretty much a crazy character. Like you said, it didn't matter why the people wanted to see him as long as they wanted to see him.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the circus, you might want to go to see the beautiful lady in pink tights, the man on the flying trapeze, the world's fattest woman, or the guy with two heads. You see, as long as they all contribute to your ticket,
right?
And they all, you know, whether you had the final analysis is if the fans don't have a good time, they're going to prove it by not showing up next time.
That's a gimmick we need in wrestling, though, is the two-headed man.
You think we need that?
I think we need that. So we get over big.
Yeah, I think so.
But you can always find reasons why a guy isn't good. You could say, like, Hulk Hogan wasn't, you know, a good technical wrestler, and someone can do a promo. But like you said, as long as the people want to see him, that's really all you should matter. You should go after the positives.
Did you think Hulk Hogan wasn't a good technical wrestler?
Well, I actually think he can work the crowd great, just the way he'd look at the crowd. I would say he's like Ric Flair. He's a different kind of worker.
The thing is, they say, what really disturbed me about Ric Flair's book, I found it to be, what I liked about it is the fact that it was written by Keith Elliott Greenberg, who I consider to be the Ernest Hemingway of the world wrestling entertainment. I mean, it was just easily well-read, and everything he does is magical. He's just so on top of his game. You know who Keith Elliott Greenberg is?
No.
He's the ghostwriter for Ric Flair's book.
Right.
It's no big secret. It's no big secret, but because they put his name right on there. So I'm not really giving you anything away.
Yeah, right.
You know, he had to get interviewed by Ric Flair and all that, you know, and he put it in regular, easily to read language. But I just felt it was pretty ridiculous that all this vehemence between Bret the Hitman Hart and Ric Flair.
Right.
Who's the better worker? Listen, you're both 100 years old. Why don't you just count your money and shut the hell up? And just be glad that you were in the business. And why don't you say that render unto Bret Hart the things that are Bret's, render unto Ric Flair the things that are Ric Flair's. When you're talking about let's knock Ric Flair, let's knock Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Macho Man Randy Savage, all these people, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, all these people that made it to the top, I think it's just ridiculous, stupid, and it's a reflection on yourself that you're a loser or something. Because let's face it, they may not be your favorite, but they made it to the top. Let's just take our hats off. And between all of them, when they're fighting amongst themselves, can't we just get along? I mean, none of us are young enough to do it anymore. And let's cheerfully surrender the baton to the young generation. We had a tremendous opportunity. You know, I look back on my wrestling career. I got to go to New Zealand, all throughout Europe. I've been to Birmingham. You know, so I've been to Manchester and Swindon and Bournemouth and all these fantastic places. I even was on the Jonathan Ross show. And if you see him, tell him I'd like to get back on that.
I'll let him know at the weekly meeting.
I tell you, right. I tell you what, he treated me fantastic, and I love being on his show. I'd like to get back on all these shows, you know, with my promoting my anti-smoking book, because I'm interested in getting the word out. Because 3,000 children every single day in North America start smoking, and can you blame them? In the absence of genuine leadership, they succumb to peer pressure. So I intend to make it 2,999. My daughter, 21 years old, is a non-smoker. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not a perfect world. I am divorced. But at least my wife and I take pride in the fact that we raised a non-smoker between the two of us. That puts me one ahead of O.J. Simpson. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes. You also didn't murder two people, I suppose.
Yes, that's my point.
What made you write the book? Was there any particular reason?
Yes, it was after. I'm a big fan of Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer. Are you familiar with any of these people?
Sorry, no.
Okay, they do transcendental meditation. They're on public broadcasting
a lot.
I don't know
anything about that.
Okay. Anyway, it was the answer to my prayer, how may I serve? How may I serve? And I do a lot of civic. Back when my daughter was in third grade, I got involved with the smoke-free class of 2000 for her school, and I wrote several limericks. And then it just occurred to me, why don't I expand on this and make it into a book? So now we've got 335 limericks, and they're all about non-smoking. I even wrote a few dirty ones, but I didn't publish them. Would you like to hear the dirty ones?
Oh, of course.
Please.
Our fans will like
that. Okay. And they're not so dirty, but I just thought it was a little bit off color, a little ribald for the what I intended to do was to get it to the children and churches and organizations. But let's see. A girl in a tough situation was long overdue for menstruation. Her smoking was maybe the reason her baby was born with a bad aberration. A smoker who came, a cigarette smoker named Guido. He came all the way from Toledo. Some girls I know want to give him a go, but smoking killed Guido's libido. And I didn't have that written down. I just memorized it.
Right.
But most of my poems are like they go in range from can't read all the way to college level, like the absorbent and yellow is he in his pineapple under the sea. The ocean's too wet for a lit cigarette, so SpongeBob lives happy, smoke-free. And they go all the way to when Sheila earned her Ph.D. with her boyfriend of equal degree. Dissertations got tough, so they smoked off the cuff. How stupid can smart people be? So they're all humorous, not really funny, but humorous, and they're enjoyable, and there's a big glossary of over 200 words that you might not have known unless they were in the glossary. So we're going to try to increase their reading levels, build the vocabulary, and most importantly, get them thinking that smoking is not only not cool, but it's something to ridicule.
And you can get that. Where can you get the book?
Amazon.com. As a matter of fact, just look into LannyPoffo.com.
Right.
And then go into where they got the merchandise, and that tells you you can either order it from the publisher, but I recommend you go into Amazon.com because then you can get my other book, Wrestling with Rhyme, which I published in 1988, which offers a glimpse into the wrestling world in 1988.
Were those poems you actually wrote and read on TV, or were they all new poems about wrestling?
Some were on TV and some were new poems.
Right.
But the best thing about it is, even if you hate my poetry, Lynn Gottschall's artwork pictures of Bruno Sammartino, Jake the Snake Roberts, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Elizabeth. All these great stars are the best artwork I've ever seen is in Wrestling with Rhyme. If nothing else, that's the reason to buy the book.
So they all basically like limericks about different wrestlers?
Well, not limericks. A limerick is a special type of poem.
Like
it's five lines with 8 syllables, five syllables, and 8.
Right.
Where all the 8s rhymes and all the 5 rhymes. Eight can be 9 if you have a downbeat. There's a couple of rules. It's not rocket science, but many of the poems, in technical terms, that were just called light verse. But the limericks from the heart and lungs is actual official limericks. And guess who invented the first limerick?
I don't know.
William Shakespeare in the play Othello.
Ah.
Yes, and I've been to Stratford upon Avon.
Well, that's a nice place.
And I said, William Shakespeare's buried here, and here's his famous shrine. I truly feel his greatest work was not as good as mine. He hid behind his these and thous, relying on his name. I've read his verses A through Z, and some are pretty lame. Not only is my poetry more stunning to behold, but Shakespeare's very, very dead, and I'm not even old. A lot of you have never seen the genius misbehave. Now watch as I expectorate on William Shakespeare's grave.
So Shakespeare did the job to Lanny Poffo.
Yes, 2 straight falls, baby. Actually, you know how I really feel about that?
What?
Of course, just between you guys and I, yes, he was better than me.
Oh, okay. We'll keep it on the down low.
Yes, I'm just between you and I.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I thought it was a great way to get attention on myself.
Yeah, it was good.
However, negative.
Any of your, you want to read one of your favorite poems from your from the '88 book about the wrestling?
Oh, let me think. Let's see. I'll give it some thought first. Yes, I think I'll do one for my brother, if I can remember it. No, can't seem to remember it. Let me see.
How about Jake the Snake? That's one of my favorites.
Okay, you guys talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to go get that book.
All right.
Okay. I just
just
realized
set it
that I have a
there.
cordless phone. Okay, I'm walking and talking, and let's see.
Well done.
Well, that was one of our questions. Was if can Lanny Poffo walk and talk at the same time?
Ooh, yeah. Okay, here's the.
Yeah, dig it.
Okay, here's the Macho Man. Here's the Macho Man poem. The number one free agent in the wrestling world today has every single manager in total disarray, with Heenan, Fuji, Jimmy Hart, and Freddie Blassie too. Even Skoland and Albano are deciding what to do. But Randy Savage is the man who must decide alone. To get some rest, the Macho Man must disconnect his phone. With eyes inflamed by who knows what, he grabs the mic to say, "Yeah, I've come to my decision. Clear the aisle and stay away." And now the door is open and we break our necks to see Elizabeth walk from the door to wrestling history. Her face is like a movie star's, her figure's nothing less, and Adonis drips with jealousy at every pretty dress. She brings charisma to the ring and keeps his ego fed and validates his prophecy that Hulkamania is dead. And then I see that here's the Jake the Snake poem. Since Jake the Snake came on the scene with Damien, his little friend, the terror of his DDT, too horrible to comprehend. His laughing eyes are hideous as he assaults his helpless foe. If evil is his destiny, he's gone as far as he can go. When he uncoils his giant snake, it's worse than any words can tell, more vile than the putrid slime that decorates the gates of hell. We turn to Ricky Steamboat, for if this man has what it takes, perhaps the dragon will return to rid the wrestling world of snakes.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Did you ever get the snake on you?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I was Jake Roberts' first foil when he first came into the WWE or F.
Yeah.
And for a joke, he pulled up my trunks and tried to shove the snake in my trunks, but I didn't care. And because I knew all about snakes, and I knew that wasn't even dangerous.
Oh, okay.
So the joke was on him.
I thought maybe the snake was intimidated.
Yes, that's just a rumor that I've never denied.
Excellent.
It's one of the reasons Ole's jealous of me, by the way. Because he was born with a big mouth and a small pee-pee. Please tell him I said that.
All right, we might have him on in a few weeks, actually.
Okay, yeah, have him on, please. Ask him how many illegitimate kids he's got, and how does it feel to have less money than the genius.
We absolutely will, for the sole purpose we won't be face-to-face with him.
As a matter of fact, you know what I'm doing with the proceeds of my book?
No.
I'm giving it to public broadcasting.
Oh, that's good.
Because there's too much garbage on television, and I'm very sorry that I contributed to some of the garbage. You know, when I was on the air,
Right.
not only, you know, in wrestling, but other things I've done. And I see that public television is the only thing where the youth of America has a chance to make something out of themselves. And everybody else is just interested in ratings. You know, but the only thing that counts is what the bank teller counts. But I've actually got all the money I could ever use. I've got residual income. I live well beneath my means. And I now look for places to donate my time. I'm going to dedicate the next 30 years of my life, age 50 through 80, to the children and helping them get non-smoking. I'll say one thing good for Ole Anderson. He's a non-smoker, and him and I are two of the only ones. Unfortunately, I just resented him for knocking Ric Flair. I happen to respect, admire, and love Ric Flair, and I think he's a phenomenal talent in this business. Do I say he's the greatest worker that ever lived? I don't think there is such a thing. I think the closest thing to the greatest worker that ever lived was the other nature boy, Buddy Rogers. Because he was worth the price of admission just going from the dressing room to the ring. And from the dressing room to the ring, I always looked like I fell out of a cat's butt.
They always say Vincent McMahon's strut is Nature Boy Buddy is like his version of Nature Boy Buddy Rogers' strut.
Well, Vince carries himself with pride, but Vince McMahon is a very hard guy not to be jealous of also.
Right.
You know, he's everything he touched turned to gold. And it makes me laugh. They laughed at him because the football didn't work and the bodybuilding failed. And the thing is, those were just ancillary factors of the great empire. Mm-hmm. And he tried it, it didn't work, and he continued with what did work. So at least he doesn't dream and not do. I'd rather, it's better to try and fail than not to try and flounder. And it's just like they laugh at Donald Trump because he had to close a few of his casinos and file bankruptcy. That's all right. He's still a multi-billionaire. Mm-hmm. You know, so the people that are pointing fingers at these great men probably never even ventured out to do anything in their lives. If you stay in your own room, you never fail, but you never succeed either. And life's about getting out there and trying and failing and succeeding. You know, the reason I'm giving all of my proceeds to public television is because this book is the answer to my prayer, how may I serve? It's not the answer to my prayer, what's in it for me? Mm. Okay, I did enough of my life going, what's in it for me? It's time I made the switch. Because, you know, the last 30 years went by as a blink. The next 30 years, I imagine, is going to go even faster. And when I'm gone from this world, I'm not going to have any pockets in my casket because I'm not going to have any belongings with me. So my life will be measured by its donation, not by its duration. It doesn't matter if I live 80 or 82 years. It matters what did I give back. And that's what I'm dedicating the next 30 years of my life to.
If you're ever looking for
that's
another
why
place
I want to tell
donate,
a million. What's that?
So if you're ever looking for another place to donate, you can always call me back up.
Well, I would, you know, but I appreciate that. You know, you'd be amazed how many. You know, the American Lung Association. I was going to donate to them, but you see, I really don't like doctors because they have needs of their own, and I thought that some of my money would go toward their Cadillac and their ex-wives and whatever. You know, I'm just saying. See, I'm one of the healthiest men in the world. I don't go to doctors. I believe in alternative medicine. For me, the alternative is the medicine. Okay? I eat nature foods, and I don't smoke, drink, or do anything that's going to cause myself a hangover.
What was it like being in
Occasionally
wrestling?
I have a
and never
little...
drinking?
What's that?
What was it like being in wrestling around all the other wrestlers and not being a drinker or a smoker?
Oh, by the way, I used to have an expression, I'll be myself or I'll be by myself.
Right.
And a few times they said, what's the matter, Lanny? Do you think you're too good to go out with us? And I said, oh, yes. I am far too good to go out with you. You know, things like that.
Right.
And they thought I was kidding. Some did, some didn't. But that's all right. Now, when I say I don't drink, I have a little Pinot with my wine or a little Cello Lambrusco, you know, a little red wine, a little Italian wine. That's okay with your meals. I'm talking about when you drink to get drunk.
Right.
And since I'm a pretty big guy, I can drink 5 or 6 glasses of wine with my meals during fine dining. It's not going to affect me.
Right.
But I'm talking about, you know the difference, to drink in...
Actually,
it also...
I'm not just saying this because you're on here. I've actually never been drunk myself. I'm 29. I drink when I go out to eat or something, but I've never been drunk. I'm also a pretty big guy.
Well, see, when you drink on an empty stomach, it goes right in your bloodstream.
Right.
When you drink, it helps you digest your meal, and it also makes the platelets in your arteries less sticky. So it prevents heart trouble and cardiovascular illness. And, you know, the trouble with health is that you'd read 2 books by experts and they contradict one another. Well, the thing is you got to read it all and just pick what you believe. Because, you know, there's no open and shut case on any of it.
You got the poetry books out. You ever think about writing a biography, autobiography?
What should I put? Portrait of a Jabroni?
I'd buy it.
What's it? You buy it? You know something? You know why I wouldn't want to do that? Because it's like I'm not even proud of myself for talking about Ole Anderson like that. Because only a fool argues with a fool, and I don't want to send negative energy out there. It's just that I thought I'd make an exception in his case because he's a particularly excruciating waste of human tissue. But my heart is filled with love, and I have the milk of kindness by the quart in every vein.
I mean, Corporal Kirscher just put out a book, so I think Lanny Poffo could.
Really?
Yeah.
See, but I don't want to write a book who screwed who and who did that. You know, it seems like those tell some books, tell all books. I mean, what for?
Right.
It's like, I think there's enough of that. I'm trying to keep children from smoking. I'm not trying to add to the gossip.
Right. I think it's a good cause.
Well, it's the number one cause of preventable death. And it's also, of the 3,000 children that start smoking every day in North America, did you know that there's a propensity of those same children to suffer the other 5 things that goes wrong? Drinking, drugs, dropping out of high school, teenage pregnancy, and suicide. So non-smokers suffer less with any of those others. So I think we got to catch them young, catch them at the fork of the road, and I am appalled that a lot of my friends are dead in wrestling. And it's the same thing happening to new people. And it's too late to talk to wrestlers because their lives are already on the downhill spiral.
Right.
You've got to catch them at the age of 10. And that was really what the book was targeted as, even though it goes on and, like I've got a few that are a little bit more intellectual. It's a real estate mogul named Dave let cigarettes make him a slave. Location, and smoke inhalation has led to his premature grave. So, you know, there's some on the higher reading levels, but I try to keep it at a 10-year-old level for the most part. And challenge them to... Yes?
Sorry. I was just saying I saw on your website that you met Shel Silverstein.
Oh, yes, twice. And it was like, you know, he actually screamed at me in the airport in Miami. I asked him, you know, I've got an idea to write a book of limericks. What do you think for children to not smoke? And he says, are you out of your mind? We live in the greatest country in the world. We all have freedom of speech thanks to Thomas Jefferson. Speak! And he screamed at me and scared the hell out of me. I said, what's this crazy old man doing? And you know what, though? It's really boring to write a book because you got to, you know, if you start with a Russian, a solemn vow that you'll soon be showing the others how, and then it gets boring, and then you quit. and then you go back to it and then you quit again. Well, just thinking about Shel Silverstein saying speak, especially since he died in, I think, 1998, really made an effort, really made an impact on me, and I think that's why he screamed at me. He wanted to shake me up.
Yeah, motivated you.
Yeah, he sure did. I mean, scared the hell out of me. I said, what's this old man? Because he looked horrible. I mean, he was old.
Right.
But we had a lot in common. I'm from Downers Grove. He's from the south side of Chicago. He was a White Sox fan. I was a Cubs fan. He loved wrestling, which I'm glad he did because,
really?
Well, when he met me in Nashville, he knew who I was.
Yeah.
He introduced himself to me, and then when I saw him in Miami, you know, I introduced him, and he knew who I was again, and he's actually a fan of mine.
How would you compare that in the Hulk Hogan match on Saturday Night's Main Event? Which would you?
What do you mean, as far as the big thrill?
Yeah.
Well, it's apples and oranges.
Right.
In the Hulk Hogan match, and by the way, I love Hulk Hogan for what he did to me, what he did for me. He actually exhumed the best of my talent and brought it out there and showcased it.
Right.
And, you know, I will never stop being thankful to him for doing that. If it were a shoot, I don't think the match would have lasted a minute, just as long as it would have taken for him to grab a hold of me. Because, let's face it, when I sit on his knee, my feet don't touch the floor. This guy is big.
Right.
And he, you know, he didn't have to do that. He's Hulk Hogan. He chose me to be, he's the nucleus. He chose me as the temporary electron. And the thing is, it was considered one of the most hilarious matches ever.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's
not live.
Well, not live, but at the time on TV.
Yeah, live on tape.
Right.
Yes, I was proud of it. I still am. And I will never get over being thankful to Hulk Hogan. I think he was, and when people knock him, you know, it's just, they find it just, you know, they want you to succeed in life, but they don't want you to succeed to that obscene amount.
Right.
And that's what causes the jealousy. They don't knock Dooley Womack. Who's Dooley Womack, you ask? My point exactly. They don't, you know, nobody kicks a dead dog. They always go after the top. They always have something to, you know, they used to knock, I don't know, they used to knock Jimmy Carter all the time.
Right.
Till he got defeated, and then they quit talking about him.
We had R.D. Reynolds on like a month ago, who wrote Death the WCW book, and I'd read in there, I think I heard it before, that you were under contract to WCW, and I don't think you ever made it to TV. It's a Gorgeous George character.
That's true. What happened was, I bleached my hair blonde. I bought $3,000 worth of boots, trunks, and robes, and I was ready to make another investment, but I was waiting for my debut. I was working out steadily, trying to improve myself. In the meantime, I had bought every tape on the real Gorgeous George. Of course, George Wagner. Let's say the first Gorgeous George. There was no real Gorgeous George. The original Gorgeous George. That I could get my hands on, trying to figure out what was so great about Gorgeous George. In the meantime, while I was waiting for my debut, of course, they had too many chiefs and not enough Indians, as you know, which eventually led to their demise. And, you know, they would start one program and then it get overruled by another booker and a booking committee. There was no totalitarian government. So what eventually happened was I stayed under contract as a perk for my brother. And then in the meantime, the first year I survived. The second year I thrived. And the next year I arrived. And then the next year the game's over. And now I want to give all my money that I make on my book to charity. I want to give back. I'm one of the few wrestlers that can honestly say that I took more than I gave to the business. Now, while I kept bleaching my hair blonde, I have something to say. You know how fantastic Ric Flair's hair looked as a blonde?
Right.
Well, my hair got stringy, broke off, and fried. And I was actually starting to, I don't have male pattern baldness. Right now, I don't have a hair problem. I have the best hair in my family, as a matter of fact. But I don't have hair like Ric Flair or like Buddy Landell. Those are the two best blondes I've seen.
Well, he wasn't blonde.
And in order to, what's that?
I said Vince McMahon, but he's not blonde. He just always noted for his hair.
Oh, he's got great hair, yeah. You know, But the thing is, and his son, Shane, I always thought that Ricky Steamboat had the best arm drag in the business. Now Shane has an arm drag equal to him, and I'd have to see the two together now. I'd have to give the edge to Ricky Steamboat because he does it with his shirt off, and he does it with all those muscles.
Right.
And I have to assume that if your shirt's on, it's for a reason. And that must be the same reason that Steamboat wore long tights, because his legs were a little leaner than his upper body.
Yeah. A lot of wrestlers did the same thing.
Well, as a matter of fact, Mr. Wrestling 2 was a very ugly man. So that was, you know. But on the other hand, Bill Eadie, who made a lot of money with a mask, was a very handsome man. And nobody's ever seen his face.
Didn't he become Axe?
Yeah, but then he painted
But
his
he had
face.
to paint his face, right.
You know what I'm saying? He looked like a movie star.
Yeah.
So there's the end of that theory.
Did you ever
Like-
have any serious injuries in the ring?
I'm the only wrestler that's never been hurt. 21 years of wrestling, I have no chronic injuries. By chronic, I mean no injuries that lasted so I can feel it now.
Right.
In other words, if you're on my left and you make a motion toward me, I can actually turn my head. I don't have to turn my torso.
You think there's any reason for that, or you're just lucky?
I think there's a tremendous reason for that. I am a highly well-coordinated individual. And I'm very flexible, and I never did anything I didn't think I could do. I always imagined it first.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a great kinesthetic sense. That's the reason that Ole Anderson doesn't want to fight me. Because you know what I found out?
What?
And I'll tell you this right now. The toughest Poffo was my brother. Even when he weighed 175 pounds, he could beat me up in any sport, or wrestling, boxing, or anything, when I weighed 230. Okay? But the reason that Gene wrestled me is because I found out later that Gene was the tougher of the two Andersons.
Right.
And if Gene couldn't beat me, that meant Ole couldn't either. Mm-hmm. But what they didn't know was that Randy was the tougher of the two Poffos. So can you imagine what my brother could do to Ole Anderson?
Probably freak him out with some rapping.
Well, the thing is, what's that? Freak him out with what?
Rapping.
Rapping.
Oh, rapping. Oh, yes. That was like I wrote one of those things on Randy's rap thing, the one about
Kurt Hennig?
Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, the Perfect Friend. That's the only one in the album I could stand. I don't like rap. I spell it with a C. I'm on the Roger Whittaker fan club. That'll tell you where my head's at.
Do you think he's going to come up with another album anytime?
Oh, I certainly hope not.
You're not alone.
So
Yeah.
have you done a lot of indie wrestling since you started back in the indies?
You know, what's happened was, ever since I got my website up, I've been getting a lot of offers.
Right.
I'm going to go to New Zealand. I'm going to go to Buffalo. I'm going to go to Nova Scotia. On October 1st, I'm going to Alpine, California to wrestle Greg the Hammer Valentine. And I'll tell you what, I'm very, very excited. If I gotta, I'm gonna, but the only thing I've got to, my only contingency is, I've got to sell my book. And if I can't do that, I can't go.
Right.
But I invite you to get on. You know, if you want my book, the best place to get it is Amazon.com. That's where both my books are. Mm-hmm. Just look up Lanny Poffo and Leaping Lanny, Wrestling with Rhyme, and then Limericks from the Heart and Lungs. And then, or you can order direct from the publisher with the Limericks book.
You can just go to www.lannypoffo.com.
There you go.
And it's Lanny, L-A-N-N-Y.
Yeah, like Fanny with an L. You know, I said that in another show in England, and I did not realize that Fanny is a very bad word in England.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tell them what it means.
Yep.
It's equivalent to the C. It's equivalent to something that rhymes with punt, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah.
Yeah, isn't it like something you can't say on television?
No, we're not on television anyway.
Oh, you can't say that on the telly. And I didn't know it. I didn't know it was a bad word. We got people here named Fanny.
Mm-hmm. Fanny Craddock?
But am I right? This is not a nice word, right?
No.
No, not really.
Not a good word.
Well, it could be a good word. Just depends how you use it, I suppose.
You could get away with it on the Jonathan Ross show, but...
Yes. How come he says... I thought his name was W-O-S-S.
He's got a bit of a lisp, yeah.
He has a little impediment, which is odd for a guy in a talk show.
Yes.
What were some of the best crowds to work in front of around the world?
Let me see. The best crowds. The loudest crowd I've ever heard was something about the Arco Center in Sacramento. It was the noisiest place, and when we sold it out, I mean, the acoustics were such a way that there was a reverb situation. You know, you talk about, I don't know, 16,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs. In an outdoor event, it's not going to be as loud as an indoor event because of the sound waves.
Yeah.
And when it reverbs off the way the acoustics were, I couldn't believe how loud it was in there. It was the loudest building I'd ever seen. And when I was at Wembley, it was loud, but it was all going in the open air.
Yeah.
And that was like, what, 80,000 people.
Mm-hmm. Big crowd.
Yeah, it was a big one, yes. And I think they sold out in like 4 hours.
Sounds about right.
Do you have any good rib stories from the road?
Yeah, I'll tell you something. When I got fired the first time as the Genius, and I came back with the Beverly Brothers to replace John Tolos, who was the coach.
Right.
I knew that a lot of the boys had stooped to one of the lowest ribs I'd ever heard. And if I can name names, it was Mr. Perfect, it was the Rockers, it was the Nasty Boys, and a few others. They were actually relieving their bowels in the suitcases of wrestlers. And so what I did was I heard about this. So I'm in Syracuse at the Amagana War Memorial, and I hid my suitcase so well that it took me a while to find it. I hid it on myself, so the joke was on me. They didn't relieve their bowels in my suitcase, but I couldn't find my own suitcase because you know, some of being a genius is you're supposed to be absent-minded.
Right.
So anyway, they never actually did my suitcase, but notorious for that with the British Bulldogs. They were the ribbingest guys in the world.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard.
Yeah, they would invite you over to their house, put X-Lax in chocolate pie, and make you eat it, and they put a lot of people in the hospital, and this was their idea of fun.
I hate to see
We've got a lot of time on our hands over here.
What's that?
We have a lot of time on our hands at time over here.
Yes, yeah. Too much money in their pocket, too much time in their hands.
That was if they liked you. I'd hate to see if they didn't like you.
Yeah, well, they were actually. I really like Davey Boy Smith because the first time I met him, he says, "Lanny, do you want to see a picture of Bret Hart?" And he took an 8x10 picture, and he had cut out a hole instead of Bret Hart's face, and he put his genitalia right through the hole in the picture, and he says, "Here's a picture of Bret Hart." So, anyway, I thought, you gotta like a guy like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that kind of humor. And I could have laughed even if it was a picture of me.
Well, we're going
Although
to
I
put a
think
picture
I was-
of you up on our site. But,
What's that?
so we're going to put a picture of you up on our site when we promote this show.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice of you. And you know something? What really? I've been a tiger by the tail. On my website, there's all of these. I put my real email address, and I spend like an hour a day answering emails, and I'm still way behind.
I say you're always good at
But,
answering my emails.
But you know what's lucky? I type 130 words a minute.
Oh, I type with 2 fingers.
Yeah. So in that sense, I'm a genius.
Well, we had you on for over an hour now. So I guess we
Is
probably
that right?
should let you go. Yeah. The time flew right by.
Mm-hmm.
Before we let you go, though, we got to get you to give us another poem.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Give me
Something about the show.
give me a topic.
How about the underdog? It'd be kind of a theme for our show.
The underdog.
Yeah.
When Polly's in trouble, I am not slow. It's hip, 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 and away I go. There is no need to fear. Underdog is here. I tried to make my voice sound like Wally Cox. That used to be a cartoon.
Oh, I know. I was a
Is
big fan of
Underdog one of you people?
I just thought we were kind of our show just starting out, so we're kind of the underdog.
Oh, you were the underdog?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You mean you guys are just starting out?
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're
Pretty much.
trying to make it in the world of web radio?
Exactly. We're
Yep.
already on audiowrestling.com.
Okay, I'll give you a poem for the underdog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't even know where you were going with that. This is a poem by Robert Service. I haven't thought about it in many years, but it fits right in. Are you ready?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to fight when everything's right and you're mad with the thrill and the glory. It's easy to cheer when victory's here and to wallow in fields that are gory. It's a different song when everything's wrong and you're feeling infernally mortal. When it's 10 against 1 and hope there is none, buck up little soldiers and chortle. Carry on, carry on. There isn't much punch in your blow. You're glaring and staring, you're hitting out blind, you're muddy, you're bloody, but never you mind. Carry on, carry on. You haven't a ghost of a show. It's looking like hell, but you never can tell. Carry on, old man, carry on. And so in the strife of the battle of life, it's easy to fight when you're winning. It's easy to slave, to starve, and be brave when the dawn of success is beginning. But the man who can meet despair and defeat with a cheer, that's the man of God's choosing. The man who can fight up to heaven's own height is the man who can fight when he's losing. Carry on, carry on. Things never were looming so black. But show that you haven't a cowardly streak, and though you're unlucky, you never are weak. Carry on, carry on. Brace up for another attack. It's looking like hell, but you never can tell. Carry on, old man, carry on. There are some who drift out into deserts of doubt, and some who in brutishness wallow. There are others I know who in piety go, because of a heaven to follow. But to labor with zest, and to give of your best, for the sweetness and joy of the giving, to help folks along with a hand or a song. Now that's the real sunshine of living. Carry on, fight the good fight and true. Believe in your mission, greet life with a cheer. There's big work to do, and that's why you're here. Carry on, let the world be better for you. So at last when you die, let this be your cry. Carry on, my soul, carry on.
Excellent.
Oh, I feel
Thank you very
classier now.
much.
Oh, thank you very much.
That was really good. Thank you.
And check out my website. Drop me an email. And I love hearing from the fans. I'll answer you back at 130 words a minute. I'm getting so much practice, I might go for the world record.
All right. It's www.lannypoffo.com.
Absolutely.
Check it out.
That's right.
Buy both his books. And thank you again for being on In Your Head. And good
Thank
luck
you very
on
much.
TV scenes, and good luck with the books.
And in the words of Charles Dickens, God bless us, everyone.
The voice in your head is Outback Jack, talking to you directly from inyourheadonline.com. If you're not listening, your mother still dresses you.